This fan base is amazing. The city of Cincinnati is amazing, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Desmond fakes a handoff, runs to the right. He's got all sorts of room to the 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown! Bearcats! 20, 25, toward the middle of the field at the 35, and he is gone! Trey Tucker will take it 98 yards to the house. A nip at night knockout as the Bearcats send a message to the college football world. Did you see that?
Hello, listeners, new and old. Welcome back to your favorite Bearcats podcast, Viva La Cats. I am your host, Justin Hiles, accompanied by my great friend, Steve Maurer, and we are here to bring you the best of the Bearcats. We are proudly presented by the Big 12's premier podcasting group, the 1012 Network, and we will be doing episodes every couple of weeks throughout the offseason, and we'll be getting back to our regularly scheduled weekly episodes once the football season starts. Speaking of football, a lot of action has happened recently. This past weekend, we had the NFL draft, and the Bearcats had a handful of guys go. There was also a couple surprises in there, which we will talk about as well. But to kick us off, Steve, give us the first one.
Yeah, so first guy off the board for Cincinnati was Trey Tucker at pick number 100 to the Las Vegas Raiders. We obviously know Trey is a speedy guy, and I think they would. The Raiders have always loved two things: speed, or if you're just bigger than everybody else. And Trey Tucker being speedy does fit their draft profile. So, but I'm hoping he can really fit into their offense well. They've kind of had a rough history, and so I'm really hoping for all the best for Trey. I do really think he can be effective, whether it's on kick return, punt return, or as that speedy slot guy that can just catch a ball and go. But it was pretty cool, and honestly a little bit surprising to see him go before our next guy. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, speaking of our next guy, Tyler Scott was drafted by the Bears. It seems like a pretty good system fit, and it does seem like he did want to go there. They always say that, you never know, but it is a good fit with him and Justin Fields, and I think that'll be interesting. I do think that it was interesting that Trey went before Scott, but I think at the same Trey Scott, shout out, also 13. It's all connected, conspiracy theory. Now, I think it's one of those things where both are fairly similar too. Like they have a similar speed, they have a similar build, they have a similar play style on the field. So I think it's kind of like neither here nor there. But regardless, they both went to teams that can use them. And I think for Scott, he could really be a good weapon for Fields if he can get slotted in there right. I would imagine his first season would probably look hopefully similar to the way Pierce's did, where he can kind of move his way up the depth chart pretty quick and start slotting in and get a lot of reps. We'll see what happens, but regardless, it's interesting and good for both of them to get drafted. Nice to see it. We did expect it. So to have them go, I guess that puts them both. They were both third round, right?
Yes, both of those guys were fourth rounders.
Or fourth round, yeah. So speaking of another guy who got drafted, the old come back home to Nashville for your boy. I'm going to get to see Josh Whyle play out here in Nashville. Eventually they'll get a new stadium. I think it's a great deal for a rookie to be in a new team that's going to be seeing a lot of newness coming around. Of course, it's going to be interesting with their QB situation. So we'll see how that goes. It is it's been a very controversial and mixed opinion conversation as far as that goes with their pick at QB, of course. But Steve, what are your thoughts on Josh Whyle going to the Titans?
I was just very interested that he was labeled as a fullback on the ESPN broadcast. But then the Titans labeled him as a tight end. I had people in the comments saying, "Oh, maybe the Titans value him as a tight end, but they as a fullback, but they put him as a tight end." So we have seen him go in and block though in like some run schemes, and maybe they're looking for something like that where he's going to be used as they motion him. That was a big part of the Dan Brock offense, is like they motion him back in, Josh in, and then they would run off tackle with Josh coming through the hole as an extra blocker and such. Right. So theoretically, if they like that tape, there was a note that Fickle passed on a note to Vrabel about Josh Wiley and about like the character and the toughness and such. So that is still cool to see. I did like that our guy Sat is actually tweeting about
Yes.
his former players and current guys from his current program. Like he even had an App State guy on there. I think that is pretty cool. Like I don't think you'd see many coaches do that. But side tangent, back to Josh Wiley. I would love to see him get involved in the passing game there, but Tennessee's kind of a, just hand the ball to Derrick Henry 50 times a game and hope we win. Obviously that'll change if their quarterback situation changes, but I do see Josh as fitting that type of team because Fickle and Vrabel to me are very similar. They let the defense work, and then the offense just has to produce enough points for the defense to close it and win the game.
Well, and Vrabel and Fickle are buddies too, aren't they? Because they're both Ohio State
that's
guys.
why I was
they
saying
coach
that.
together, right?
Yeah.
So that's another thing too. Like I'm sure he's had his radar on Wiley for a while, just because of that connection in and of itself. But I don't know. I mean, put him at fullback, put him at tight end. As long as he gets some reps, I would like to just see him out on the field. I think that'd be great. Just get him off the bench, whatever puts him in and gets him some reps, I think is the most important. And, who knows? Maybe they'll just they've blindsided all of us and they're going to turn him into Derrick Henry's backup. Just a giant, another giant running the ball. But who knows? We'll see what happens. Probably.
We'll see if the Titans use him enough. There was some complaints about his usage rate with the Bearcats last year. Anyway,
speaking of usage rate,
and one tight ends who complained about their usage rate, not complained, they just noted it. Lenny Taylor was one of many undrafted free agents that signed with teams in the last few days after the draft was over, including Ivan Pace, which was an interesting one, and Arquan Bush, Javon Hicks, James Tunstall, just a couple of names. I believe Will Huber was also in the mix. But it was kind of interesting, though, that Ivan didn't end up going, and maybe his size is a detriment to him. But man, his tape is there, and just it's kind of interesting to me that he would have he didn't get drafted. But I mean, he's a dog, man. He's going to work for it. So hopefully he can find his way onto a roster.
In no amount of censorship, Ivan Pace's story, all it said after the draft, he got signed by the Vikings, undrafted free agent, and it just said, y'all fucked up. It is perfect because they did. All those teams, if he can get out on the field and just get those reps in, they're going to see what they missed out on. Cause I personally don't understand it. I understand that there's the size issue and that's all here and there. I think it's the same thing that we talk about with a guy SK, where it was a once in generational player. And then you get to the, big leagues and it's all right, is age a factor for him? No, but for SK it was. And on top of that, size. And size, sometimes you don't match up and therefore you kind of get pushed to the back. But, SK dropped a 40, 50 point game. I remember that. He played for the Nets. Ivan can go out there and just beat up the whole field. It's one of those things that it doesn't matter if you're drafted or if you're not. If you get the time to shine and you get the chance, you could really go out there and make a name for yourself and be a, NFL regular for a while. So I think he has the skill set to do it. Hopefully that will happen. And again, congratulations to all the other Bearcats that were signed, even on those undrafted free agency contracts. We'll see what happens, but sorry. It says my internet connection is unstable. Am I good?
Yeah, you're coming in a little bit choppy.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Well, am I clearer now?
It sounded fine enough, right there, but go ahead and start talking again.
Okay. Well, anyways.
Now you're good. Now you're good.
Anyways, this was an interesting thing that came up. I don't remember. I know you put this in here. I saw it too. Can't remember who it was, so we'll give you credit when we figure it out.
Go Bearcats.
Go Bearcats. Yes, our good friend over at Go Bearcats. Cincinnati has the second most players in the current Big 12 and has the most players of the new Big 12 drafted over the past 3 years since 2020. That's pretty interesting considering the only team ahead of them is Oklahoma. And if Ivan Pace, which we all thought would have got drafted somewhere in there, we would have tied Oklahoma, leading the Big 12 in in NFL draft picks. So Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just shows you, obviously Luke Fickell did a great job with recruiting here. And I'm not, maybe I'm not the highest on Coach Satterfield, but if he can just replicate the same recruiting playbook that Fickell had with, and a lot of successful coaches have had here, not just Luke Fickell, with just the local area and recruiting the kids who are good enough to play here, as well as adding in from around nationally. And we've already seen in this 2024 cycle, his staff has been pushing a lot more in Georgia, which is chock full of talent. And there's their staff at Louisville had some connections in California. We're still seeing how those work. Kerry Combs is posting a new GIF every day in another tri-state city. So I do think that maybe it's not going to be 16 in 3 years again, but the Bearcats have some great players on their roster right now, and they can continue to recruit to that and say, hey, this school produced 16 professional NFL draft picks over the last 3 years. Like that's such a big recruiting tool.
And countless undrafted free agents as well.
Yeah.
That's another thing to pay attention to too, because I think that kind of slips, but like, that's one of those things that like people look at the draft and that's where all your money and talk and conversation goes. But those guys do get a shot, like, and that is a chance. And that's sometimes all that you need, like we've said before. So I think that's interesting. One thing to note on Satterfield. So since 2020, which he started there in 19, right?
Yep. Yes,
in the 19 season. So he's might not get credit for all of these, but we'll count it. So the 2020 season through the 2023 season, there is a grand total of 6 players who got drafted from Louisville. So I do find that interesting too. Maybe he can, again, it seems like we've got a good amount of talent coming through the door, and hopefully we can continue to keep our run of NFL draft talent. Of course, I'm sure we'll see this year probably is going to slip off a little bit. A lot of these guys did come out of the college football playoff run era, so that's one thing to keep in mind as well. But I'm sure we'll see some more Bearcats get drafted next year as well. Moving on, speaking of new Bearcats, CJ Frederick and I still can't pronounce
Seamus Lukosius, baby. Come on.
Seamus Lukosius. I'm going to screw it up. So thank you.
Luco. Just call him Luco.
Luco.
We got a Luca. Now there's a Luco.
But regardless, both of these boys have joined the roster from the portal, and Xavier had their hand in the pot on both of these guys, but we managed to steal them away. Xavier, you suck forever. And
how do they have so many spots that they needed to have like 5 transfers again this year? Like, make it make sense. Yeah, they are like the Northern Arkansas. They're the Arkansas of the Big East. Like, they're just gonna have 5 dudes every year. Like, okay, we need y'all 5 to get out. We got 5 more coming in.
And yet they still somehow have like those names that are like there for like 7 years.
Yeah, like Zach never seem to go away. Still there somehow. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, I don't know. It's regardless, it is interesting that we're able to steal them away from some of the local talent who, to be fair, has been doing better than us as of recent. But again, screw you, Xavier. I think this is one of those things that it's going to be interesting to see how this turns out, because these are some 3-point shooters, and I think Wes. We've talked about what is the look going to be going into the Big 12. I think he's tripling down on 3-point shooting. We've lived and died by the 3, and now it seems like we're going to do so even more. And hopefully some of the reliability at the 3-point line we can expect to see come to fruition. And it's not one of those chuck it and pray kind of systems. And maybe we're going to actually start hitting some of these and winning some games. Of course, it is going to be more difficult, but to play in the Big 12, you have to be able to keep pace. The Big 12 loves to score. And especially from the 3-point line, I think it's going to be an interesting way to see how this shakes out. But not very many roster spots left. It seems like it's all nip and tuck. So, Steve, why don't you walk us through the rest of that?
Yeah, so it seems that, unless barring any more future entries from guys, although I do think the spring window, I don't know about basketball, but I know the football spring window just closed, so it would make sense to me. I'm going to look that up. But so it seems like the window is mostly closed for players to announce that they're transferring out. Mm-hmm. So unless there's some more clarity on the John Newman situation, or Somehow another Bearcat leaves and enters the transfer portal. There's not really a scholarship available for another guy, so most likely done. But there's been mention that the staff will keep eyes on portal entries, including one that just went in recently and has the most interesting six school list of I've ever seen. Aziz Bendego, the Bearcat killer from Utah Valley. His list, Justin, let me just read it off to you because the people need to hear this audio.
Do we have to call him the Bearcat killer?
Well, maybe he wasn't a Bearcat. It was only one game, but he did do pretty well against us. Okay. The top three, I would consider blue bloods in the sport: Duke, Cincinnati, and Kansas. The bottom three, Vanderbilt, Illinois, and Cal. Now, no disrespect, but I think Cal won 4 games last year. Vandy was in the NIT Final 8 with us. Yep. Illinois, I think they just had a down year last year. I don't remember if they made the tournament or not, honestly. I'm not trying to throw shade at Illinois fans. I don't know anybody from Illinois, but
Illinois made the tournament. They lost to Arkansas, I'm pretty sure.
Damn Musselman. But I just am so interested in that list, and yeah, I would love to see that happen. Another guy come in, a big guy, especially in the Big 12, where you're going to need just rebounds. You're going to need guys to just get in there and fight for rebounds. I do think it would be interesting to have him here, but obviously there's Duke and then there's Kansas on that list as well. So I would not expect the Bearcats to win an NIL battle with them, but we just need one of these players to just be overwhelmed by Wes's charm and be like, you know what? I want to play for that man. The bag be damned. So I am interested on it though. Overall thoughts though on the portal. It does suck to see Jeremiah Davenport go. I think we were just sad to see him go, but it made sense and it was unfortunate. Obviously, Cincinnati kid, you don't want Cincinnati kids to leave, but give him some time to figure it out and maybe
damn Musselman again.
Yeah. He's got offers out for everybody, I swear.
Yeah.
And then Jarrett Hensley as well, leaving. I don't know. I would like to hear more on somebody who has more inside knowledge because it seemed like his playing time really ramped up at the end of last year, Justin.
Yeah.
And then it really just was never there this year. And I understand that he's not the biggest offensive threat, but it was a little bit surprising to see the complete drop off in just playing time. And usually a guy can play their way out of the starting lineup just by playing, but I just don't think we ever saw him actually play. And he did get some time when the Kalu Ezikpe stuff was happening, and so I think his transfer portal list though was a lot of smaller schools for Jarrett Hensley. So it stinks, but hopefully he can go be productive somewhere. And then obviously Landers Nolly leaving and going to the NBA. Looks like he's getting some workouts. So if he can sign on somewhere, maybe on a 2-way or something, that would be great. But overall, you bring in two bigger guys, and also I would call Lukosius a stretch 4, probably a 3. Yeah. He can get in there and rebound, but he's more known for his 3-point shooting ability. I haven't watched his tape, so I don't know anything about his defense, but I'm sure Wes probably prioritizes someone who can play defense, especially with how we just seemed to get beat for easy layups a lot last year. Hopefully that can be fixed again this year. But if Frederick can, just come off a screen, come off a pick and roll, come off just make a move and make his own shot and get open, I think that would be great for us because no offense to Jeremiah Davenport, but that was not his style. He was more of the set shot guy. He would just find his spot, catch, then wait for the extra pass, and then just shoot. It feels, just from what I've heard from other guys and watching a little bit of his tape, he does come off of those screens a lot. He does like to move to create his shot, and Jeremiah just wasn't doing that as much. He was more of just I'm here whenever you're ready to pass the ball to me, and then it's going up. But
and one thing to add too that I don't think we've touched on is you are losing Jeremiah, who is a Cincinnati kid, but you're replacing him with another Cincinnati kid.
That's a good point. Yeah.
CJ Frederick, Cubcap.
You know, us Cincinnatians, we can't really, just not have one Cincinnati.
There's got to be
team.
somebody in there.
Yeah.
Which I guess technically too with CJ Anthony, we have him in the mix as well. Of course, I don't expect to see him probably be getting any minutes anytime soon with the roster makeup that we've got now. But regardless, yeah, I think it's going to be a really interesting, off season to see how this team develops and see where everybody fits in. And of course, I think speaking of off season, speaking of seeing where players fit in and seeing some more cryptic off season notes, Dan Skillings dropped the biggest troll something. I don't know what you'd call it, but it caused eternal suffering all of this morning because he said in a TikTok, last workout in UA gear. And it's like, all right, what am I supposed to do with that? Expect that there's not going to be an announcement tomorrow. They're going to practice tomorrow. And then all of us people who are not in college anymore are sitting here like, oh my God, it's happening tomorrow. Everybody's talked about like May 1st, Monday, May 1st. There's a great possibility the deal's going to get done. And like 10 o'clock rolls around and it's just silence on the radio. and then all of us are like, wait, school's over. They're probably going home. It's like, damn. Like it's just that the hook on the line. Dan Skillings, if you're watching this, you got us. You got us, my friend. You got us all. Good for you. We're suffering, and I hope you know it.
Ouch. I don't have to be that harsh to the kid. So I here's the thing, though. You're right. It is the school spring semester is over now. Shout out to all the UC people that graduated over the weekend. But
welcome to Bearcats alumni status.
That's right. Yeah. So while Dan Skillings was saying that, and obviously I just love that Jeremiah Davenport just posted it. Like he's like, you can't tell me anything anymore. I don't play here. So I'm just posting this picture and y'all can't tell me to take it down. And it was conveniently hidden right at the end of the post. So, just some compliance officer just scrolls by. Okay. Did you see what Wes Miller was wearing in his outfit when he took his picture with Jeremiah?
Bro, stacked out.
He was just head to toe. Like I just want to know if he called Michael Jordan personally and said, look, man, I know y'all are figuring out the deal. Like, I know it's probably not even you're working with the Hornets, but I need some gear, baby. Like, hit me up. And so I don't know, maybe somebody else took care of that for him. So, but that does make me happy though, that we know it's them. It's basically confirmed. Like, if you need any more proof than that, I don't know what you're gonna look for. Like the team logo was on the Jordan shirt. Like,
well, and this is one thing that I think people might miss is like, of course, Jeremiah could have taken that, this week, given it, you're a student athlete, you're graduating, you've got all these ceremonies, but for all we know, because sometimes the way they do these, this could have been like weeks ago that picture was taken. So like. That could have been in the mix even further back, and it's not just like, it's happening now. Like that, I think just adds more validity if it isn't, or if it is. Like, I don't know. Regardless, it's interesting to see, and I highly doubt that somebody went on to just grabbed a regular Cincinnati T-shirt and just cricket vinyled on a little Jumpman logo and the big old Jumpman patch. That's like official Jordan gear. So like, there's something there. Yeah, even if it's a one-of-one for now.
So I do want to credit Lisa Brandon's burner for giving us this inside scoop before it actually happened. So did we get any hate on that? Did we get any love for that? Did anybody really did we get any hate for that?
We didn't get any hate. We also didn't get any love. Good. It's neutral. Okay.
Yeah, the people were lukewarm about Lisa. Yes. Maybe we can bring her on again another time. So I did want to give my idea for a timeline on a possible announcement and just some not insider details, but I just have heard some things and I want to share it on the pod and not on Twitter and just be called a crazy person.
Steve's shot in the dark coming up now.
This is a segment we like to call reckless speculation.
Yes.
No, so So obviously it's been in the works since fall 2021 that Nike and Jordan was going to be the next apparel provider. Obviously, just cancel out Under Armour and Adidas because we had them both previously. Everyone kind of knew where this was going to go, and obviously Cunningham was probably saying in public forums, we're posturing because we want the best deal for our student athletes, and it's right. I mean, it's a negotiation. It's not just like, well, please, please, Mr. Jordan, give us your gear, please. We're begging. It's got to be a good deal for Cincinnati as well, and it's some of these schools that are like, I think San Diego State, they don't even like make anything extra from wearing Jordan. It's just like, it's no extra monetary incentive for them. So maybe there's something that Cunningham wants to work out, and I have faith that they are going to work that out. But I would imagine that the announcement would probably be done, just about like sometime in July or before August, because there's going to be gear rolling in. Yeah. I if I had to put a date on it, just because it's a 23, I'm just going to say June 23rd. And I don't know what day that is. I'm going to look real quick to see.
It's probably like a Tuesday.
Okay? So May 23rd is a Tuesday. I'm just thinking of 23s here. June 23rd
be a Thursday
of 23 is a Friday.
Oh, Friday. Yeah.
So just think about one of those 23 days, but because I think that would be good brand unity with 23 Jumpman and stuff. But it'll definitely come out at least before August, I think, just because they got to get in all the football stuff. They got to let the players like figure all that stuff out. They got to have like all the UC apparel suppliers like stocked out and all the different gear offerings and stuff. So obviously the deal is, like I said, the deal's not done. They're still hammering out, I think, but it's, from what I've been told and what I'm inferring, it's like pretty close. They just are like trying to figure it out. And you've seen like Du Bois is having a closeout sale on Under Armour this past weekend. There was talk also of the UC bookstore having a sale coming up. So there's movement, there's signs around it. Obviously, there's like some football players who were wearing Nike and Adidas cleats like during spring practice, which I kind of thought was funny. DDJ wore Kobe's all year, so
Wes so Miller's, we found out.
Yeah, Wes Miller's Ferragamos. But it's not really much of an insider scoop other than it's coming. They're just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, and I think for me the interesting part when we're looking forward to when it actually comes out is that July timeline, because when you get, like you said, to August, September really is when crunch time obviously is there because your season started. So by that point, you're going to have all of your apparel produced, and they're not going to do full runs for the team in football, in basketball. Football is obviously the most pressing, but that also requires the most amount of uniforms. That requires the most amount of game gear. That requires the most amount of travel gear, all that kind of stuff. Like you have to get all that situated and made, which of course apparel, you can do that on a faster timeline than footwear. Footwear, team colors, team colorways, team footwear. It's very easy to create. Like they've already got that lock, stocked, and ready to go. They'll order the same thing that they order for San Diego State for like a football or this or that, when it comes to Nike or Jordan. But when it comes to the actual timeline, they've got to get it done. And I can imagine that they would get the deal done, start the production and development on that if they haven't already, and then announce it later. I don't think it's going to be like, all right, we got the deal done, announce it like now. Like there's going to be some time between, but July 1st in my mind is like the deadline. Like, I don't think you announce it any later than July 1st because you've got the Big 12 come out swinging. Say we've got Jordan now too. You get everybody a month, 2 months to buy all their Jordan gear, have everybody rolling up in droves in Nippert Stadium in Jordan gear. Like it's going to happen. Like that's the way that's got to go. So I think for that to be the case, that buffer means you have to do it by July, like on or before July 1st. I like the idea of the 23 days though, too. That's a very creative thing that I could see them doing.
And by the way, it's going to be Nike for all other sports, Jordan for the basketball teams.
Fair enough. I would still love to see football. I don't know how other people would feel about that, but I think their uniforms look good.
It's the same producer. You just put a different logo on it, like, come on now.
For those of you who aren't in like product development, I'll just let you in on a little detail. All the factories that make your favorite goods in China, Vietnam, India, all that, they'll make they'll make the $30 thing that you see on Amazon, and they'll make your coaches and all these other things in the exact same factory. It's just the quality of leather. It's just the quality of all these goods. I've always found that really funny. But regardless, we don't know what's going to happen about this whole Jordan deal. We don't know what's going to work out. We're pretty certain it's going to be Jordan and Nike, and we're just figuring out the timeline. But until then, something to hold you over, because it's really, really pressing and everybody's just on edge. Home Field Apparel. They have released a collection just for you. So, a brand that is for sure partnered with the Bearcats for some merch. Home Field Apparel, the source of all your wants and desires, your school's greatest throwbacks in the comfiest threads and retro styles. And speaking of fantastic throwbacks, Steve's got one on right there. The Cincinnati Bearcats have a plethora of dog-eared eras to remember, and Home Field has something for just about all of them. If you're a fan of the 60s era, the 90s eras, or beyond, Home Field has you covered in their brand new spring Cincinnati collection that just dropped this past weekend with over 9 pieces of spicy looks. And even better, Home Field has partnered with your friends here, Viva La Cats, to bring you some hard-earned savings on that collection. Go to the site at homefieldapparel.com, pick your favorite items, and before you check out, make sure to enter our new promo code VIVA, that's VIVA, for 10% off. Again, that's 10% off with code VIVA, VIVA. If you've got a family birthday coming up or you need to appease your angry in-laws, why not get them a piece to add to their closet from one of their over 100 different schools offered? Home Field has product for all of them, including every single Big 12 school. Again, that's homefieldapparel.com. Make sure to check them out and get something from that new Cincinnati collection. So, apparently, we were rated as current worst Big 12 football team. The worst. Not like, oh, like one of the worst. The worst by multiple public. Steve, I need you to look here. Publications. So do we already have enemies, or are people just they've figured out that Cincinnati fans bite when it comes to talking shit?
Man, somebody can just buy a $20 podcast mic and just really just say whatever they want, can't they?
I guess they can.
So that's a post. That's a cell phone there for anybody who's listening. I'm smiling. So yeah, these guys, Heartland College Sports, they cover the entire Big 12. So definitely check them out if you're interested in being upset. But their blurb was this: if Luke Fickell was still around, Cincinnati would likely be way further up this list, but he's in Wisconsin now, and so are a bunch of his former players. Scott Satterfield isn't just tasked with following up one of the most decorated coaches in school history. He also has to carry them into the Big 12. It's an impossible task, but one that he could prove capable of if given a few years. Unfortunately, it likely won't be easy in year one, and the sentence ends there without a period. So I was hoping for the writer to add more about, like more positive things. Like, hey, maybe with the ease of Cincinnati's schedule, they won't finish last, and they missed the top 4 teams from the 2022 Big 12 standings. But that I don't want to do your job for you. We're on like different entities of Big 12 coverage, but that was just my thought on that. And then also there was a Purple Theory analytics show that covers the Big 12, rated Scott Satterfield as the worst head coach in the conference. And I've kind of been, if you've been following me on my personal Twitter at _MauerPower, I've been just posting like the Scott Satterfield picture of him like looking at his phone whenever a transfer guy enters the portal, just because I think it's funny of like Scott Satterfield looking at his phone and seeing that, be like, someone get on it. We need to recruit this man. And also
it's totally the old man has a phone. And it's just that you got games.
Yeah. I do like the hat choice he picked though. The black hat with the red bill is primo. But then also, I quoted with the regular Bearcat Squidward pointing him meme. So got that one covered too. Justin, here's the thing to me. Like I mentioned, and like we talked about on our schedule breakdown show, we missed the top 4 teams from the 2022 Big 12 final standings. And, I do see like some of their points, and like obviously new head coach, maybe a bridge guy, maybe like not the guy that everybody wanted. Nobody really loves him, overly yet. He hasn't won us over completely,
Right.
And new quarterback. There's a lot of questions, but man, you had UCF right there. They didn't even get a player drafted this year, and you just still decided to shit on us. Like, what the hell, man? That would have been the easiest shit posters thing to do, is just put UCF 14 and just say like, and Big 12's new. You never know, but
no, not
UCF.
Don't give everybody a reason, and then just UCF's reason for being dead last. UCF.
Cyclone Larry already buried these guys. Yeah,
brother. R.I.P. Cyclone Larry. I don't know what happened to you, my guy, but we miss you. Please come back. Are you okay? There's things where it's like, all right, we meme about it on Twitter. It is what it is. Maybe the guy loves his off seasons. Who knows? But the man said, I'm gonna go take a drink and just forget about some stuff, and literally never liked, retweeted, quote tweeted, or posted anything after that. And that was like 2 or 3 months ago. It was like
gone to the wind
right at the end of the basketball season. I don't know what happened to the man, but we hope you're okay. So Cyclone Larry, if you're with us still, please just give us a sign.
Cyclone Larry would also agree that the Bearcats aren't going to finish dead last in football this year.
He
maybe 13th, but not dead last. Come on,
not dead last. No, we don't
have
do
some
that.
pride in this program.
All right, we're at less than a minute. Excuse the brief intermission. Welcome back to Viva La Cats. After our Zoom ended, screw you, Elon Musk. Screw you, Zoom, and all the other platforms. We use you for free. This is America, baby. Another football topic. Ben Bryant has hit the portal. This one's interesting because we've talked about this all this past season, months on end, about Ben Bryant's fit. How does he shake out into the new team? Will he go try his hand in the NFL? Maybe try to do this or that. He stays, and now we don't really know. We saw some action in the spring game. He's competing with Emory Jones. Evan Prater sitting because he's injured. We don't know what all these situations are going on. And then all of a sudden, Ben Bryant ends up in the transfer portal like the day after or 2 days after the spring game. So it just kind of, I think that one blindsided me more than something personally like Evan or somebody else would have. Like, I honestly thought that, like, all right, if Ben's sticking it out this far with all of these other guys in here, he's clearly got to be like the choice to go, him or Emory, and it's going to be competing for that. And personally, I would have thought that he would have stuck around because he seemed to like, he loves this program and he wants to be around it. And I think we don't give him enough credit for that, which I think, is here or there. Depends on what side you look at it as, but I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens. He could always withdraw his name from the portal, stay with the Bearcats. He could go somewhere else, fish in another pond, see what happens. But with his talent level and kind of with what we've seen, personally, I think it makes more sense for him to go to a different G5 and do another season like he had at Eastern Michigan. Throw up like 3,000, he had like 3,400 yards or something. Get a massive season on a little bit of a smaller team, something that's a little bit easier to control that can boost your profile versus get lost in the depth chart at Cincinnati. Because if Emory takes that starting spot, his shot at the pros, I think, starts to dwindle very quickly. And I think personally, if you can build that resume a little bit more going into it, you might not be looking at an NFL draft prospect, but you're looking at maybe an undrafted free agent. You're looking at XFL, USFL. You're looking at all that. I think your potential is much greater when you're doing that at a different school versus doing it at Cincinnati and getting lost in the depth chart as a 6th-year guy. I think at that point, you've lost your chance. So personally, I would like to see him go somewhere else for that. I think he still has a lot to offer Cincinnati, but I think he would probably be better suited playing somewhere else and not just getting stuck behind. And I think he would get frustrated personally.
Yeah, I mean, we can all be honest and say it wasn't the most successful season that anyone would have hoped for last year. And I do think like there were some criticisms of him that were not just fans being mad, but I really feel like Ben just got a really raw deal here at UC, and
Yeah.
I'm glad that we didn't record like right after that happened, because I was a little bit more upset than I am now. And as someone who had to transfer away from UC for extenuating circumstances, it sucks. And I mean, maybe Ben Bryant wasn't growing up going to UC games like I was, but he obviously loved this program enough to come back once, and just, the self-realization or like being told by the coaching staff, like that's gotta hurt, man. And just on top of all the fans saying, "Oh yeah, I'm glad he's gone." I understand he wasn't great here, but man, like these dudes still chose to play for UC, play for our university, put that Bearcat and Cincinnati name like on their chest every day. So it just hurts me a little bit. So I just wanted to say that and just add that in. Like we should really just, obviously every situation is different. You don't have to love every guy who only comes here for a year and moves on, but like Ben Bryant's different. He was here for 4 of his 5 years already, and he was still a part of this team. And this team still won 9 games last year. That's pretty damn good. And we obviously saw what happened when another UC quarterback came in and played for Ben. So it stinks, man. I kind of really wish he had gotten a better reception here, and I just feel bad for the kid.
Yeah, no, I completely agree too. Like, people don't realize he really did get shafted by this program, unfortunately. Like, timing with everything, with Gino being his guy, well, with him being Gino's guy, I would say probably after Dez, and with, being in the system with Fickle, like it all just seemed like, all right, things are going to finally line up. I was waiting for my shot with Dez coming back. It wasn't going to happen. Take a Sinesta, come back and hit the ground running. And it all seemed like it'd be there. And honestly, if Fick and Gino stayed, there's no reason why Ben wouldn't be starting this coming season. I don't see why not, given how much they liked him and how much they stuck with him throughout a lot of the turmoil this past season. But unfortunately, those things, dish out the way that they do. And, for Ben, like I said, I think personally it'd work out better for him if he was just at another program, because I think he can really shine better there. And I would hate to see a guy that's that late in his collegiate career, get stuck in a depth chart battle. Like it sucks. Like, you don't want that, especially for a guy who just came to this program, who is now in his 3rd program, to have that happen to you. Like, I would hate to see that for Ben. So regardless, on the brighter side of things that could happen, say Bryant is not here, what would we be looking at as far as depth chart goes? Because now that's one less name in the pot. And of course, we already have kind of an idea that Emory is probably starting. But the rest is up in the air, because I wouldn't say hush hush, but it's one of those things where I think any of the other guys really has the shot. So I put up a poll right after Ben decided or put his name in the transfer portal. And I just said, what would you like to see as the ideal QB depth chart? 1 through 4, no Prater in there, or sorry, no Bryant in there. And so the options were Jones, Prater, Drogish, Lichtenberg. There's a lot of names here. Jones, Drogish, Lichtenberg, Prater, Jones, Drogish, Lichtenberg, Drogish, Jones, Lichtenberg, Prater. So between all of those, the ideal one that people voted on was Jones, Drogish, Lichtenberg, Prater. Prater dead last, which I did find interesting, but I think a lot of people have really started to pump the brakes, and not even pump the brakes, jump off the train while it's moving on Prater. And it's unfortunate. I don't know really what the situation is going forward. You don't know if he's even going to stick around, if he might transfer. 4 QBs is a lot when you have 2 guys who could realistically start, one who's been here for 4 years with Lichtenberg, and then Drogish, who's coming in, who legitimately could be your starter if all things shake out for him, and ideally would be your starter moving forward, because then you have 4 years of eligibility with a guy who starts early. We did the same thing with Dez. We got him out there as soon as we possibly could. And look what that turned into. That turned into one of the best quarterbacks in program history and a guy that we could rely on to take us to a college football playoff run. So not like we're going to put that weight on Brady's shoulders, but it would be nice to see a guy that we can start early. We've been clamoring it for so long. And I think that's the reason why people wanted Evan. They didn't care about, I think people liked the idea that Evan was a Cincinnati guy. I think people liked the idea that Evan was a dual threat quarterback, and didn't really like the idea of Ben aging out with the program. But I think more than any of that, it was because he was a young guy. People want to see that young guy at the helm because of what we had with Dez, and moving forward, I think that's what people will want. And so,
well, and he was a local guy as well too,
yeah.
And like, what, Cincinnatians, we're diehard for our locals. So, I do think it's just an unfortunate thing where it just didn't work out with, just the offense. And it just, like, I was reading someone in the comments saying, like, it obviously the star rating was there, but Evan was always seen as a project. And I'm kind of interested by that, just because it was, it didn't seem like a project to me. He was he had great numbers in high school, but obviously maybe he was not as polished in like throwing the ball or running an offense, or maybe he was more of like, well, once the play breaks down, I'm getting out of the pocket and I'm going.
Right.
So it just, we saw some of the things last year, and he was a fingertip away from winning that game against Tulane, and maybe things changed for him. But I wouldn't put anything on the bowl game against Evan too. I think that was just like a terrible situation, and somebody had to play quarterback, and Evan kind of just got thrown out to the wolves there, unfortunately. So, but
again, another guy who's kind of screwed in this situation with Fick and Gino leaving too. Like, yeah. And if people are in on the idea that Fick was like mentally out the door, which clearly he was for a while, I don't think that caters well to a guy like Evan succeeding.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing though. Like, there is still like so much talent in that young man. And like, I feel like it would just be like bad service for us to have him transfer or something. And obviously Emory Jones is kind of what Satterfield wants, but I feel like Prater is kind of what Satterfield would like as well. A guy who can run, but, and also like, do some option and then throw the ball like that. I think, what we're going to see what Emory Jones and running this offense is like, but I do think there's something there for Evan Prater. It was kind of why I was surprised that Drogish decided to stay, is because he's more of a pocket passer, and was able to convince him to stay. And obviously, transfer portal, Drogish could just, if the system's not for him, eventually he could go. Same with Lichtenberg. I would like all of these guys to stay. I feel like having an Elite 11 guy in Drogish would be huge for this program. But I'm just very interested to see how it breaks down.
Yeah. And I think, as kind of a last point on this, looking at Brady, like, I think from some of the tape that I've seen too, like, he does have the ability to move. He is a pocket passer, but I don't think he's as stagnant as Ben is. And I think he's got a little bit of more of that mobility. And I think that, caters to more upside for him. And maybe Sat wouldn't be so against changing a little bit of his offensive DNA for a kid who's really talented. Coaches do that. Like, they obviously recruit to what they want, but at the same time, like, if you've got the right talent and the guy who wants to be there and a guy who can put up the numbers, you're going to adapt for that player. Like, it's going to happen. So I think that makes sense for Drogish to be here. And as far as Evan goes, he's Emory Jones light with more upside in eligibility and more time to develop. Like, Emory's going to be a one and done. That's his shot. Like, it's happening this year, or it doesn't. And also, Evan has shown to be a bit more, I would think, a bit more durable. Emory, unfortunately, I think this has been a thing with, you look at Ben, you look at Emory too, like, health is not always the best factor that they have to bring to the table. So if these guys can't maintain staying healthy, you've got a treasure trove of other people that you can play too. So, and that's always a thing to think about when you get late season, your game 6, 7, 8, 9, and these guys are starting to wear down. Sometimes you might have to take a week off. And so that's one thing to keep in mind, but we've got couple last points. Late season resurgent for baseball ?
Yeah, Justin. So our baseball Bearcats are back in the winning ways. They have won 5 of their last 6, including a sweep of the USF Bulls, leaving you in the American with 3 straight L's. How about that, South Florida? So, like I said, Bearcats have won 5 of their last 6, and they come home just at a perfect time to finish off their home schedule with 8 straight. So they're going to host number 14, East Carolina this weekend. The Bearcats unfortunately did get swept by the Pirates in Greenville, but you never know. The Pirates never seem to do very well in Cincinnati. So I'm hoping for similar things with that. And then we've got Xavier, Norwood State Jesuit Community College, coming in next week for a midweek at UC Baseball Stadium. UC's already beat them, and they beat them pretty handily once this year. That was the game where UC had like 6 home runs in the first 2 innings, so maybe that could happen again. You never know. And then also there's a big series against our new Big 12 rivals, Central Florida Tech. They're coming in for a 3-game set. UC is currently above them in the baseball standings. We are 4th, and UCF is 5th. And then they will end that 8-game homestand with a midweek against Georgia, and then Georgetown, not Georgia. And then I believe they will go to Houston to finish their series. Oh, shout out to Ryan Nicholson, by the way, named AAC Player of the Week this week for a big performance, helping the Bearcats get that sweep. So, like I said, they will finish up with 3 in Houston, and then they will go down to Clearwater, Florida for the conference championship tournament. But Justin, I wanted to ask you something, just as someone who's just I've been watching a little bit here and there. I've been following along with the games. I haven't been able to watch all the time, but as someone who has seen a bunch of different coaches go this year, just work this out with me. Football coach left on his own terms. Women's soccer coach, we parted ways. Women's basketball coach, we parted ways. Women's golf coach just stepped down after working for 20 years. So there's been a lot of movement within the UC coaching front this year. And people were wondering if Scott Guggens might be another name to go after the team started poorly. They were not projected to finish very highly, but if they maintain this 4th rating or keep going up, I do think there is, reason for him to stay around and stay. And he's given himself a chance to earn the trust of John Cunningham by playing well and having a chance to rack up a few more wins here before the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, for those of you who do watch on YouTube and video, I am just a floating head right now. It's clearly gotten very dark outside, and I didn't turn a light on, so whatever. Regardless, on the note of Googs, like, I don't know. I mean, with his performance, like he's definitely given the Bearcats like a fun run and something to remember. I think I could be convinced either way of having him stay, moving on from him. I don't think it's a situation where you're in dire straits looking at the Big 12 where it's like he cannot do this. But I also think that you're going to have a lot of question marks about Guggens going into the Big 12, and can he actually get it done? And will he be able to make UC competitive, even if we're throwing more money at the baseball program with NIL deals and with more things moving forward, bigger competition? There's more money to go around, spread the love. But I don't know. I mean, I think at the same time, you can keep Guggens, workshop him, see how it pans out. Baseball is not going to be one of those. It's a bigger sport in the Big 12 for sure, but it's not going to be one of those sports that's going to be a make or break where you have to succeed necessarily as the face of your program. Like, I think basketball and football, when you walk into the Big 12, you're going to be expecting them to be competitive. And if they're not, you're going to be making some moves on coaches. I think as far as baseball goes, if you can maintain a somewhat competitive team and keep a lower salary guy like Guggens on the board versus trying to find a new big head coach that's going to come in, hopefully succeed. I don't know. I think it's one of those things where you can play to the guy that you have the current, understanding of, and play to your strengths. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't really hurt you that much as it would to just strike and miss on football or basketball going into the new season, and including like women's basketball too, like there, and which This is a great time to transition to women's basketball with Katrina Merriweather, named UC's new women's head coach. Making those moves, you want to make a statement. You want to be competitive. You have to be competitive in some of these other sports in order to really, to make your statement as a Bearcats team in the Big 12 and say who you are and show up early. Like you don't want to be showing up to the Big 12 and having to play catch up. You want to be able to show up to the Big 12 and start throwing some punches. And so in order to do that, you've got to have the right coach in there. She was a former Bearcat star, already making waves within the UC community with something that has been very interesting. Steve, can you show us what we're talking about?
I practiced this, so I think I got it right now. So this is what, there you go. It's not as blurry down there. Can you see the?
Yeah, we can see it. We can see it.
Okay, so she's been doing, and this has been in their recruiting graphic whenever a transfer portal player or a new signee commits to the Bearcats. It's been this video of her at her press conference doing the UC with her hands in hook 'em horns motion, and then just flip. So the back of the hand is out, and
down,
horns down. So I'm wondering, Justin, do you like this version better, or we just saw a new UC football commit? I'm blanking on his name right now, but he did the peace sign version, which is just like this. Or I think I think he was showing his
I think his palms are out. Palms are out.
What do you think, Justin? Do you like the peace sign better? Or do you like the hook 'em horns better? This would look a lot better, by the way, if I had some rings on. Maybe I'll have to go get one real quick, and I'll let you know.
Can I offer you a third option of the middle fingers tucked?
That looks a little weird.
like an E. No, I think it's one of those things where like it kind of goes either way. But I do like the idea of having some kind of hand sign. Our friend Throwback Frog on Twitter made an interesting point that you guys need a hand sign. And then of course I sarcastically responded with, we already have a sign and we use our full arms. You see, baby, like you got to get it right. And so like, I think that's one of those things where you've kind of already got the thing, but I don't know. I feel like a hand sign has to be like a one hand kind of thing, it's not. And so for that, since we've already got it established, why not roll with what's already? The wheel has not been broken. There's no reason to fix it.
Yep, I think that's fair. Or you could just
like
do the Nick Lachey thing. You just like go like that, or just could we just do the C? Is that lame?
It could work. Why not? Why not like a?
Well, so I tried to do the UC with my hands, and it's just like hard to do with like the pinky and stuff. So I was just thinking just like the C, but I don't know. Apparently, our guy Trenton in the Catskiller Discord was reminding me that early in the Fickle recruiting days, he had players like holding up their hand like this, so it would just do like the C paw or something like that. And like for all the things that Coach Fickle did in the next 5 years, that 2017 year I think deserves its own oral history because it was it was an interesting time.
It's like the 2006, 2007 Bearcats.
Yeah.
Or what was it? The 05, 06. What was the one that like literally had a book wrote about it? Lost to Time. I don't remember. There's one. I'd have to look it up, but we won't linger on it. Regardless, I think we've kind of made our decision on that. My vote goes with the full block hand version instead of the peace signs. I think it's a little bit cleaner. Looks more like the classic like UC administrative logo. And the one that shows up on the new home field apparel merch.
Yeah, so, how about that? Roll it all in.
Look at that. Look at that, baby. All right, last point here. FCC, they've got it figured out. They have something rolling, and we are competitive. It is fun to watch again. FC Cincinnati has some jazz behind it. I got to see them when they came down here to Nashville, and they beat Nashville after they threw out some very interesting pregame sessions. But top two in the Eastern Conference after 10 games, only 5 goals behind leaders New England, and they beat Louisville City in the Open Cup last week. And so, you beat Louisville, the little baseball field friends down south. You're at the top of your league. They just what was the deal with Brenner? It was like a $10 million, $9 million transfer.
$10 million transfer
Serie
fee
A?
to Udinese in Serie A, Italy. For those who
Yeah.
don't know, the Diogo Bonito, beautiful game.
He's really throwing a
but
lot out here.
that obviously, like Pat Brennan made a good point. I was like, usually that's a bad thing when people leave teams, but in soccer, it's not a good thing, but it gives you more of a chance to do what you want with that transfer fee. It says, okay, yes, we understand that this guy was really good and like he wants to move on and play in more European competitions, but we can use this money to, get a player off of either a struggling MLS team or a South American team, maybe a Mexican team. You can use that money,
Pay
like so that
the shit out of Vasquez and just
well,
lock him down.
Yeah. I was listening to our guys at the Post Cincy. Shout out to Mr. Kevin Wallace. They definitely go listen to them if you want a more in-depth tactics breakdown of FCC with a little bit more of fun sprinkled in. But they were talking about how it kind of worries them that the whole team is basically just centered around Brandon Vasquez and Luciano Acosta actually was the guy they were talking about. It's like the whole team is built on Lucho Acosta's shoulders, and that's a little bit worrying. But hey, if you won a trophy out of it this year, that's not the wooden spoon. That's all that matters.
That is true. And regardless, like I think this really is a team that like late season you can see competing, and I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that they're going to make a run, but look what they did last year. They got everything together just at the right time and were able to win a game. And, it's the playoffs. It's single elimination up until, you get there to the end. Like, you've got to be able to figure it out just a couple times.
Did you see what they did to the playoffs this year, by the way?
No, they changed
So
stuff
they
up.
changed it again. Yeah.
Ugh.
So the number one team gets the direct bye to the second round, but teams 2 through 9 are going to play a round robin, like best of 3.
Really?
Yeah. And it's just so Apple TV can get more playoff games, and each team gets a home game, out of it. So got to make everybody some more money. But
so you play 3 games and then you go to round 2?
Yeah. So like theoretically, if like Cincinnati was number 2 and they drew, say, like Inter Miami, like they would host Inter, and then go to Miami for the second game and then play if necessary third game. But
I see.
I just think it's so silly. It's just like,
it complicates it.
It's just a very naked cash grab, I liked the old, it's almost like 3 editions ago now, where it was like 6 teams made it. It was just like the old NFL football playoffs, it was just like there was the 2-legged like aggregate tie, and like I like the aggregate stuff more, like Champions League in Europe. So
right.
But I don't know. MLS, they just keep doing things to it to make it even more American. And for that, I kind of appreciate it, because I can watch any other like soccer league with relegation and promotion and all that other like aggregate and fun stuff in any other like country in the world, but we do it differently, baby. And like that's so American to me, whether it's right or wrong. It's just very American. So
how do we make the most amount of money possible?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, but yeah, shout out to FCC, man. Like I have this idea in the back burner that I would love to do for an off-season pod, and I've been thinking about it for a while, but it centers around FCC. So if you're interested, just let us know. Maybe we'll get Kevin Wallace on for that.
Yes, maybe we'll find that out. Since we're on pro sports, I'm going to make 2 one-sentence mentions. The Bengals, they had an interesting draft. You could go either way. I don't think anybody's like off the wall, but interesting regardless. And the Reds, Steve, you're going to be very disappointed in me. I am incredibly sorry. I am so sorry for the statement, and I'm ashamed of myself. I haven't watched a single game yet this year. It's May, and I have not watched 1 single minute of Reds games yet this year.
You've been missing a lot of roller coaster action. They lost 7 straight, and then they just won 5 straight before losing on a walk-off on Sunday. So playing finally in my time zone, Justin, on the West Coast for 3 more games, starting against the Padres Monday night. So, it's a sport to watch in the background. And obviously if you feel a certain way about the Reds, I can't tell you how to feel. I just like having a little connection to home, and I don't get to watch 162 Cincinnati Bearcat football games. So, like just during the summer, it's something nice to have on. And obviously FCC being good this year helps. So,
well, to answer
yeah.
your question, not yours, Steve, but that of the ownership of the Reds, where else are you going to go? Everywhere else. That is where I have gone. So
I moved to another state. I was so angry.
With all that said, thank you guys for listening to this long one this week. It's been a pleasure getting your ears and eyes if you're watching us on YouTube. And again, just for that extra plug to make sure that you are purchasing from our good friends over at Home Field Apparel. We do have that promo code. It's VIVA, Viva, to get 10% off of the Home Field collection. So make sure to check that out and keep in tune. We might be off for a week or two. We'll see what happens. If there's any new news, hopefully it's the big news, but when that happens, you know that we're going to drop an episode. So
sorry,
again,
you said new news and I just had to do the Kelsey thing.
But take care, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Until then, Viva
La Cats.